Hello and welcome to your class today. As you can see, I'm sitting up quite high. I've got a bolster with a couple of foam pads underneath it. You may not have any yoga equipment, but if you haven't, get some blankets, get some cushions so you can lift yourself up a little so that you're able to lift your spine in this pose and let the thighs release down. Broad across your collarbones. Now dig your shoulder blades into the body to lift your chest, but don't poke your ribs forwards when you do that. So it's almost as though the shoulder blades are sliding forwards and downwards to lift your chest. And breathe into the space that you create. Hold on to your knees and straighten your arms and use your arms as another fulcrum to give you more lift and extension through your spinal column. Now, if you can hold on to this extension through the spinal column without tensing in your groins or your legs, then bring your hands together into the prayer position. But if that causes you to tense up in your hips or it causes your spine to collapse a little, then keep hold of your knees. So choose your position. If you're coming into the Namaskar Asana, thumbs into the base of the breastbone to lift it up. Move the shoulder blades deeply in, allow your eyes to close. And start to let the breath become slower. Breathe through the nostrils, both on your inhalation and on your exhalation. So for many of us, when we start in yoga, particularly if you come from a sporty background, you're not used to using the nasal passages to breathe. So it takes a little while to get into the habit of doing that. So obviously you do need to breathe. If you can't breathe through your nose, then breathe through your mouth. But we're training the body to become accustomed to the nostril breath. Extend the shoulders away from the earlobes. Extend the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Feel the evenness on each side of the body. Relax the facial features, release the teeth, but keep the lips together. After your next exhalation, allow the head to release down, but keep the chest lifted up, breastbone towards the ceiling, shoulder blades supporting the chest. And release the hands, palms face down onto your thighs. Lift your head and gently lift your eyelids. Okay, well done. So we're coming first of all into an Adho Mukha Virasana action. So if you're not able to sit back on the heels, then look at the alternative version. Here we're placing a couple of foam pads and a bolster. Now, if you don't have this equipment, that's fine. You can just build this up with cushions or pillows, or folded blankets, or folded towels. So you can have a look around the house and get something that is appropriate. So we keep the buttocks back on the heels, and you fold the arms, resting the forehead onto the support, leaving the nose free because we want to be able to breathe. So if it's difficult holding on to your elbows because of tightness in your shoulders, you can hold on to your wrists, relax in the armpits, keep the facial features soft, observe the breath as it travels in through the nasal passages. So if there's any tension in the shoulder region, in the upper back, just see if you can let that go. All right, and slowly coming up. Now, if you don't have foam pads, you can make up some height with folded blankets. Even a couple of books underneath would be quite good, just so that you're not straining your knees. There shouldn't ever be pain in your knees in your poses. So if there is, you need to examine why that is, and you can always contact us at the centre and ask a question. Equally, those of you doing live stream classes as well, you know, if you have a problem during the class, then you can let us know at the time and we can give you ways of working with that. So we're starting with the knees together, pulling the flesh of the calves out and back, sitting onto a height. Spread your toes with your fingers, put your thumbs into your heels and your fingers into your toes. Now we're going to come into Garadasana Arms for this. If you have a problem with doing the Garadasana Arms, what you can do is this action. Holding onto your shoulders. So some people really do have an issue with wrapping the arms like this because of tightness, and it's just tightness. It can also be muscle bulk. If you have done a lot of gym work and you're quite big in the shoulders, then sometimes that in itself can restrict you. Don't worry about that, you just hold on to your shoulders. So everybody can take the arms up. We're going to take the right arm over the top of the left arm. Now hold the shoulders. If you're here, you'll be working towards holding the shoulders, and don't hold on the top of them, hold around the sides of them if you're able to. For those who are able, push the arms against one another. If you're able to wrap the hands, then you wrap the hands. For many people, you'll be kind of there rather than there, and that's a process. You know, this just happens with time. So once you're in, some of you will get into this very easily. Those of you who are finding this quite simple to do, then lift your breastbone, lift your elbows, and move your thumbs away so that you're looking at your thumbs. Breathe. Release the arms, and we'll go to the other side. So take the left arm over the right. So again, you can hold onto your shoulders if that's where you're going. You can push against the upper arms if that's where you are. If you're wrapping, then you wrap. And you may well find that one side is a little more cooperative than the other. So again, for those who find this an easy action, make sure that you get something from it. So lift your breastbone, move your ribs back, move your abdomen back to the spine, lift your elbows, and see, can you move your thumbs away from your face. Let the breath flow in through the nostrils. Fine inhalation, fine exhalation. Okay, and releasing. Well done. So come out of your Virasana. Those of you who are on the chair can stand up. Lift up, swing the legs to one side and stretch them out in front of you in a Dandasana action. Now, just have your heels off the mat, bring them in and stretch them out. Bring them in and stretch them out. Just get a little bit of action on the legs so that the blood flow comes back into the knees and the ankles and the lower legs. This is why this pose is so good for your legs, your knees and your ankles. You can see here that I've got a chair set up with some bolsters on it. Now I'm obviously not expecting anybody to have 3 bolsters in their home. But what you might do is have some pillows or some cushions. It may be that you can do this onto the seat of the sofa or onto the back of a sofa. You may have the back of a sofa that you can rest onto. And that will probably be better than the arrangement that I've got here, but this will do. We have to adapt and accommodate. So we're going to come into a forward bending Uttanasana, resting the arms. So I'm just going to show you. You're going to interlock the elbows, so you're going to hold the upper arms. You can see that the thumb comes to the inside of the elbow like that, and then extend the arms up. Now anybody with shoulder problems, upper back problems, you may not be able to get your thumbs like this into your elbows, so you go to where you can. Now keep the ribs moving back, and we're going to extend forwards and rest the head and the arms down. It might be, I'm just moving my feet back because I don't want the legs to be out of the vertical. So it might be that you put some pillows onto a table, onto a dining table. So just have a look round your room. So when we come out of the pose, we've got to lift up again and release. So have a look around your room, see what you've got that's going to be about, you can see that this is about the height of the tops of my legs, the top of this. So just have a look around and see if you've got something that's around that height. You can stop the video if you need to in order to do that. All right, so hopefully you've got something that's the correct height. Stand with the feet slightly apart, middle toes pointing forwards, toes spreading. Now have the tailbone long, the chest lifted, and fold your arms. Put your thumbs into the insides of your elbows. Keep your ribs back, keep your thighs lifting, your kneecaps lifting. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Keep the ribs back and fold forwards. Keep the legs lifting strongly and rest the head down. So I'm going to need to move my feet back a little bit from there. So it may well be that you need to step back a little bit so that you can get this action of resting the head, resting the elbows, keeping the legs vertical, lifting the kneecaps, lifting the thigh muscles. And breathe. So the head is resting, the torso is resting, but the legs are working. So you're pressing down into the outer foot bones, lifting up with the inner ankles, and it's as though you've got a belt around your shins that you're pushing out to. Breathe through the nostrils. Move the abdomen to the spine. So it's a soft action with the abdomen, but the abdomen is lifting. Don't allow the frontal pelvic bones to drop towards your thighs. Keep your tailbone long and heavy. So we're going to come up out of this with the arms still folded. So inhale, take the arms up and release them down. Good, well done. Stand in Tadasana, chest lifted and breathing. So we're going to come for Prasarita Padatanasana. Again, we're going to use this high support. Now, I'm just going to show. Now, hopefully you'll be able to get your mat lengthways in front of your support, whether that's a table or whatever it might be. We're going to take the feet quite wide now, tailbone long, chest lifted, and we're going to again get this lift and extension and coming forwards. All right, but this time we're going to change the cross of the arms so that it's the unfamiliar way of working, so that we've got a bit more balance, because we've already done it the familiar way in Uttanasana. And then again, when we come up, it's a strong action on the legs. So let's try that one together. So starting in Tadasana, I want you to just step your feet apart. Now just check that the heel bones are in line with one another. You can check that by looking at your mat. Are your toes pointing directly forwards? If not, adjust them so that they are. The action of the energy is coming from the outer hips down towards the outer foot bones and from the inner ankles up towards the inner groins. Roll your shoulders back and down and interlock the arms. So you'll go for the natural way and change it. Then extend the arms up, ribs back, navel back to the spine, pressing down into the outer foot bones, shoulder blades moving in, and then extend forwards, keeping the legs strong, keeping that active action in the outer foot bones, pressing the inner thighs towards the thigh bones, pressing down with the outer foot bones. So again, here the upper body, the facial features are relaxed, but the legs are very actively working. So pull up through those legs, pull up through the kneecaps, thigh muscles, frontal hip bones. Let the tailbone be long. So this area here is the tailbone. If you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, this area here has to weight down to stabilize the pose here. Abdomen softly moving up towards the spine. Don't let the belly drop to the floor. So just observe the breath. You can let the eyes close gently. So we're going to come up out of this action. Now if you can come up with the arms folded, then you do so. But if that's too much for you, then release the arms, heel toe the feet in together. Alright, so active in the legs, active in the abdomen. As we extend up, bring the hands down and then bring the feet together. And have a quick look at the setup that I've got here. So, I've got a brick. Now I've put 4 foam pads and a bolster here. This is a very high support and it may be too high for many of you to come into. If that is the case, then this is what we would give to our complete beginners when we start them out in the basics classes. A brick and a bolster. Now if you don't have any equipment, that's fine. You take all of that away and you just work with no equipment and just take your legs up the wall. If you don't have a belt to put your legs into, then that's fine too, but just don't push your legs out too far. So you might have any variation of 1 layer of foam pads and a bolster, nothing at all, but you can see that the brick is flat to the wall. It just gives a space for the sacrum to drop down into. You might have that. You may have this. Now the way that we would start getting into these poses is sitting sideways and rolling into it. On this higher support, it's quite difficult to roll into it. I'm just going to put my belt to one side there. So you have to get the knack of getting both sides of your bottom up the wall without shifting and moving this equipment here, and then rolling into position. So you can see I'm still not close to the wall, or not close enough, so I've got to kind of wriggle in until I can let the sacrum drop down into the gap between where the foam pads are and where the wall is. So it sort of drops towards the brick, the sacral region, and then the belt goes on around the shins so that I can just rest the legs. Okay, so up we go. Those who haven't got any equipment, if you're not quite sure how you're meant to be coming into this pose, then just have a quick look. Those without any equipment would just come in this way, and the legs have to be a little bit more active without a belt because you don't want to let the legs drop out to the side. So you just have to keep the legs a little more involved at this stage. Those of you who've got a period, take all of the supports out. Just do this flat to the floor. Don't do it with height underneath the pelvis. Let the breath flow, fine inhalation, fine exhalation through the nostrils. So these poses where the legs are inverted above the level of the heart, they're very good for the body. They refresh the legs. They are poses to include in your practice whenever you can. All right, so you're going to come down out of the poses now. Bring the knees into the chest. Carefully roll to your right side and slowly coming up. I want to get you into your Shavasana relaxation. So I've put a blanket on top of those foam pads. I've got another blanket for my head and a bolster for underneath my knees. Now you don't have to have any of these, you can just lie flat onto the floor. But this does make quite a nice support for the opening of the chest. You sit in front of your foam pads there. So the back of the pelvis is on the floor, and that's just coming above the back of the pelvis to lift up there. So that you can see, this is, if I sit up, I'm sitting hands width ahead of that support. Then the bolster is underneath the knees. You can use a pillow, you can use cushions, you can use a rolled mat underneath your spinal column rather than these foam pads. And the palms come out towards the sides. So I'm going to leave you in this Shavasana action. Spend another 5-10 minutes in your Shavasana, observing your breath, observing your body. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.